Hey everybody, Garden Sound here. Lyle the bird. You want to sit on my shoulder? Come here. Oh, that's a no. That's a big no. This is a story about my Canon 70D. Now, I use this camera to make a lot of videos. Over 500 at least. I'm talking had breakfast with this camera, ate lunch with this camera, ate this camera for dinner, not literally. I love this camera. I still love this camera and I still own it. And the whole purpose of this video is to tell you why, in Casey Neistat's own words, this is the best vlogging camera ever made. Before I bought this camera, I really didn't make videos like I do now. I mean, I didn't make videos in the same way that I make videos now. Like, I wanted to make videos. I wanted to make educational videos. I wanted to make things that had a high production quality to them. Not just messing around with my friends, not just messing around with different subjects. I wanted to make high quality videos. I wanted to make little films. And I'm not really sure. Yeah, no, I know why I wanted to do it. It's this guy right here. This is Casey Neistat. For those of you that have ever been to YouTube, you've probably seen this guy's face before in your recommended feed or somewhere on the site. He is the golden child of YouTube. Basically, this guy right here revolutionized the way that vlogging happens. Basically came up with the concept, or at least popularized it.
If you're a regular viewer of this show, you know just how much my happiness and good mood and just general positivity is tied to the weather. You'd also know that all winter long, I've been waiting for summer.
This guy right here is the reason I wanted to make videos. I saw one of his one night. My wife and I were sitting on the couch. You know what? Let's let her tell us what happened, because I think you guys are tired of looking at me. Do you remember when we were sitting on the couch and watching Casey, and I was like, hey, I could do that?
Yeah. It was when we were watching him every day, and he would have like episode number and the music would start. He would have just random clips about what he was doing that day. We were intrigued. It was interesting enough for you to just keep watching. We liked some of the music, but sometimes you thought, gosh, I wish somebody would watch my music and be interested and want to see what I do every day. And it seems like that would be pretty easy for me. You like had this progression of, yeah, that's kind of cool video, to like, wow, I really like seeing this every day. And I'm kind of like that too. I make music every day, but people don't know that because they don't get to see what it's like. They don't get to see what I do the way you get to see what Casey does. And then one day you just said, I could do that.
So yeah, pretty much anybody who calls themselves a vlogger was inspired by Casey, and anybody who denies it is probably a liar. And it inspired me so much that I decided to make a video every day for an entire year and upload that with original music to YouTube. I called this project Garden Sound 365. But why? But still, why? What made me go from watching Casey Neistat to uploading a video to YouTube every day for an entire year? What happened?
I could do that and even, take it one further. I can make the music fit what I'm doing, just, or vice versa. What I'm doing fits the music that I'm making, and I think people might like to see it. So that's how you started the idea to do 365. You wanted to make a project where you could use a camera to show what your life looked like every day and share music every day. And it was really cool.
So, why is this camera special? First of all, let's talk about money and cost. When I bought this camera, it was the single most expensive thing I'd ever paid for in cash. And I remember looking at the price tag on several websites and thinking to myself, there's no way I'm going to be able to afford this. There's no way I'm going to be able to recuperate my cost of owning this camera. So for me, it was a big risk. I was like, oh man, this is going to be tough to recoup. It might not be worth it. This is a mistake. This is et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There was a bunch of reasons in my head for not buying this camera. But in the end, my drive to create something overcame my caution about the price tag. Going back to the specialness of this camera, it's also just cool looking. I mean, look at it. It's got a big barrel lens. It's got a flip out screen that rotates at 360 degrees. It's got all these crazy buttons on the back. I mean, pop-up flash, a dial that lets you set everything up, inputs and outputs, and SD cards, and attachment points and batteries that you change like a weapons magazine. I mean, that's rad, right? Every time I hold this camera, I feel cool. So there was the coolness factor. It's a cool toy. It's something that's fun for me to own. I can say, look at this, guys, check out my cool toy. And I can hand it to people because it's sturdy and not really worry about them breaking it. It's easy to use. I can set it in automatic mode and hand it to anybody, and they can take a good picture in about 3 seconds. It really is a magnificently condensed piece of technology. Canon did a great job with this camera. It's because of its accessibility and ease of use that I was able to realize a dream that I've had for years, which is to make films. I've always wanted to make films. And this goes back to when I was a kid. In fact, recently, my parents gave me a couple of boxes from their attic that contained tapes of me making films when I was a kid. I mean, look, this right here. This is the camera from when I was a kid. It's very similar. It's this tried and true design that you have camera, you've got a rotating flip out screen so you can take a picture of yourself or you can turn it around and take a picture of somebody else. I mean, it's Canon was really just looking at all the stuff that worked for years and years and years and going, how can we update this and make it better? This camera is different, very different than this camera, okay? This camera is able to record things in a digital format using a very small piece of hardware called an SD card, okay? So everything gets condensed down to a file and stuck on this SD card, and that's that, okay? This camera right here, this is going to show how old I am. This camera requires tapes. See this? This camera requires you to put a tape in it. This is a high 8 tape. It was the second to the last of the tapes that were used in cameras, the last of which is called mini DV format. It's even smaller than this one. This is what a mini DV looked like, and this was popular for a long time. So there you go. That's mini DV. And basically, this is an analog recording format. You press the record button, and it records onto the tape. And then if you want to play it back, you have to rewind the tape and play it back. You have to put it through an AV cable that went into a TV. It's that old RCA connection, yellow, red, and white. I mean, this is old school. Not as old school as VHS recorders, but I've got one of those too, trust me. But this camera right here gave me the ease of access. An SD card. You can easily transfer those files to your computer. They're lightweight. You can edit them. You can chop them up in Premiere. So this is my brother's camera. This isn't exactly the same camera that I owned. In fact, you can see the camera that I owned right here, but that's not me. That's my friend Rick. This is me. There you go. That was from Governor School. That's high school gardener right there. You're welcome. So I filmed a couple of videos when I was at Governor School that really weren't anything worth sharing. Just some silly kind of home videos of stuff that was happening. And then that was it. And so if you're counting the years, for those of you who have been subscribed for a while, you're probably thinking to yourself, man, Gardner, that's over 10 years between when you filmed your last video with this camera and when you started to upload to YouTube regularly. What happened in that time frame? And the answer was I got really serious about writing music, and that took over my life. And so for a long time, all I did was write music. I didn't do any filming. I didn't even have a camera at that point. I'm pretty sure I broke my camera. I can't remember how it happened, but it quit working at some point, and I didn't have another camera for a really long time. In fact, the next camera I had, just to show you the generational gap, is this one. So I went from 2004 to 2016. Where was I going with this? I didn't ever give film a chance as an adult. I'd given music plenty of chances and plenty of opportunity, but I'd never given film a chance. So I decided to give it a chance. And I figured out very quickly that if I paired my music with film, people would pay more attention. I had tried for years to gain some ground with music alone, and that didn't work. What ended up being the key was combining that with video. And it didn't occur to me until one day when I was watching a Casey Neistat video and I thought to myself, hey, I can do that. And that was it. The rest is history. Literally, I've uploaded the rest of my life basically since then to YouTube. I thought to myself, I'm going to make videos. I'm going to make music videos and it'll be great. And it is. I love making music videos. I love making video. I like filming stuff. So much so that I've actually grown and expanded more by way of making videos than I have ever by music, which is saying something. Because I've told multiple people, and I'm sure people are going to listen to me and go, this is heresy, Gardner. I have always said that I love nothing more than making music. And I'm surprising myself lately because I actually do like making videos as much as I like making music. And it's all because of this camera. I keep coming back to this camera. I don't think I've ever been as stoked about a package arriving at my house as I was about this camera getting to my front doorstep. I must have checked UPS's tracking info 3 times an hour every day until it got here. I could not wait to start filming things. I'd seen all these YouTube videos about people using this camera. I'd watched the best, your recommended settings for the camera. I watched those videos. I watched every single video I could consume about this camera. And then when it got here, all of that translated to being able to use it right out of the box. I know what every single button does. I know what every single wheel does. I know what all of the settings do. I know what all of these switches do. I know how to zoom, focus, everything. I know this camera, every menu, every setting. I know it. I know this camera. And I think that is a picture of love. Love is when you really know something. Like my wife, Caroline, and I, we've been together for over 10 years, and I know her intimately. I know all of her secrets, and I know a lot of things about her that I wouldn't even know about myself. And I grew with her. I grew as a person. She made me want to be a better person, and that's what love is. And this camera, although this camera is not, able to reciprocate emotionally, caused me to grow as a person and a filmmaker. I've had this camera on stage. I've had it on tour. I brought this camera and filmed other musicians. It's been around the world. It's been in bathrooms. It's been in my studio. It's been everywhere. I've made memes with this camera about me being in the shower. So this camera has seen me in a state that most people don't get to see. And I almost feel guilty every time I use this camera. That's why I even started making this video. The camera that I'm filming this video with, the camera that I'm using to take pictures of this camera and my face and my bird is a Blackmagic design Ursa Mini 4K. And every time I pull this camera out, at least for the first couple weeks that I owned it, I felt really guilty for not using this camera. Although this Blackmagic Ursa has a ton of improvements on this camera. I bought the Ursa because I outgrew the 70D, but why then do I feel so wrong when I use it? Part of it's due to the fact that I don't know the menu system and all the buttons as well as I know this camera, but that's becoming very quickly no longer a reason. The Ursa Mini is very easy to use. In fact, its menu system, I would argue, is better than Canon's. And I'm going to make another review about this particular camera sometime in the future after I've become an expert with it, but I can't say that I'm an expert with the Ursa like I am with this camera. I am an absolute expert with this camera. With that, there are some gripes. And Canon, if you're listening, if this video for some reason gets big enough for you to hear me out on, I want you to listen to me very carefully. An 1/8" headphone input for audio is not going to cut it. And I get that you're trying to make a small form factor device here, and that might be the best way to do it, but it's 2018. Maybe USB-C, maybe something like that, where it's more expandable, where you could attach dongles to it. All of these inputs right here could all be condensed down to maybe 1 or maybe 2 USB Type-Cs. So maybe on your next D series, on your next 80 or 90D, whatever you're making, just instead of having all of these, just have 2 USB Type-Cs. That's all we need. Maybe 1 headphones jack, 1 USB Type-C, and you could simplify your entire I/O right here. Also, the microphones on this camera are garbage. Moving on, SD cards. Now, I don't get to say the F word very often in my videos because of demonetization, so I'm about to say the F word a lot right here, and I'm going to bleep it out so you know that this is the F word. SD cards. SD cards. This is the worst media to record to because it's totally unreliable. All the different variations of SD cards make this a pain in the ass. I've lost so much footage because of SD cards. I've lost SD cards. Look how tiny that is. Where'd it go? Nobody knows. It's like Legos. Like, do you want to record a movie on Legos? No. SD cards. That's all the gripes I have about this. Literally, it's the choice of media and the I/O. The rest of this camera is rock solid. There's a reason Casey Neistat says this is the best vlogging camera to use, and it's right here. What's up, guys? GARDNSOUND here with another video about how cool this camera is. See how easy that was? And I can turn it off, and I can close the screen. Done. Incredibly simple. Put your settings in, take the lens cap off, the autofocus takes care of the rest. Boom. You got yourself a movie. And you can hold it right there with the flip out screen. It's genius. It's even a touch screen. You can touch and autofocus and different stuff. It's great. So to wrap things up, the reason I'm so attached to this camera is because I've had a lot of firsts with it. I'll probably never sell this camera for the same reason that I'll never sell my upright base. It's just too close to me. And I can still use this camera as a camera B, you know? I'm not cheating on my 70D with the Ursa. I've just simply outgrown my 70D's capabilities. And I'll probably feel the same way about the next camera when I have to move on from the Ursa, whenever that might be. Thanks for listening. This was a different type of video. So this was a love story. My name's GARDNSOUND. This is Lila the Bird. We'll see you next time.